Sometimes we don't always have the correct ingredients that we need for the recipes we'd like to cook. So I'm going to share with you a few substitutions.
Hi, and welcome back to my pantry. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to be cooking. Being quarantined right now and not being able to get to the grocery store when you like can pose a problem when you don't have the ingredients you're looking for at home to be able to cook whatever you're cooking. So what I've written down a few substitutes that you can use. Some of these I have used, some of them I just have written down in case I ever need them. But I'm going to go over a few of these with you. Okay, so I think we all know that if you don't have vinegar, you can use lemon juice, and that can be used either way. It's vice versa. If you don't have lemon juice, you can always use vinegar. So that's always a good one, and I have used that many, many times. And white wine. White wine is another thing that we often use in like stir fries. So a replacement for that would be chicken broth, if you have chicken broth, and it's equal amounts of chicken broth. Red wine. Now if you're cooking with red wine, you can do the same thing. You can use broth, but you don't want to use chicken broth. You want to use beef broth. Isn't that weird? With white wine, you use chicken broth, and with red wine, you're going to use beef broth. Okay, now this is one that I have used over and over and over because I keep forgetting to get Worcestershire at the store. So I'm always out of Worcestershire. I use it in meatloaf, I use it in burgers, I've used it so many times in soups and stews and different recipes that we use, and I don't know why I keep forgetting to pick it up at the store, but I do. So what I always do when I don't have Worcestershire is, this is my little recipe here. I take a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar, just regular sugar, and a little dash of hot sauce. Now, I usually opt out on the hot sauce, but that's up to you. I've never seen a difference in it, and you know, honestly, it works the same, and I still haven't gotten Worcestershire at the store. I'm still using this, so that, you know, if you don't have Worcestershire, that's an option for you. Okay, ketchup. I have run out of ketchup many times because we're really not big ketchup eaters. We usually only use it for cooking, or if the grandkids are over, or during the summer for barbecues and stuff. Other than that, we really don't use ketchup. So what I'm going to tell you as a substitute is when you are cooking. We use it for like meatloafs or whatever, but I don't know that this would work on like French fries or anything. But if you're cooking, you can replace the ketchup with 1 cup of tomato sauce, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of vinegar. That will work if you're cooking and you don't have ketchup. That has happened so many times to me. I cannot tell you. When we've done meatloaf, we'll go look in the fridge and we're like, crap, we don't have any ketchup. Lots of times that's happened. So, and I really hate going to the grocery store. Quarantine or not, I hate the grocery store, so it's not something that I like to do, so I don't get there that often. Okay, brown sugar. Brown sugar, I'm going to try this. I've never tried this, but you can make your own brown sugar. So I have my little ingredients out here, and it's a cup of sugar, just a cup of white sugar, and a 1/4 cup of molasses. So I'm going to pour my molasses and try this and see how this works. All right, I'm going to pour a 1/4 cup of molasses. This is almost a scary thought for me to do this. I've never done this, but I've always wondered. And if you've ever wondered, and you've never wanted to try it, well, I'm going to try it for us. Okay, let me just scrape all of that molasses off the top. Okay, and we're just going to mix this around. If you didn't have any brown sugar, this is what you want to do. This is a great replacement. So I usually always have brown sugar on hand, so this isn't something that I would necessarily have to do, but if I did, Well, I have the recipe for it. So it says to just keep going. You can see, look at this. It's turning into brown sugar. Seriously. This is so cool. Okay, this is what it looks like. I think myself I would probably add less molasses and it would be less damp, but not a lot less molasses, because really, I mean, it kind of has the texture of brown sugar, so this would be a great replacement for brown sugar if you don't have any. I think that it would work really good. Okay, I think that was a success, and actually I'm going to make some cookies with it a little later. Our two granddaughters are staying with us, and the 6-year-old wanted to make some cookies, so later on I'm going to test that out, and I'm sure it'll work. So the next one, vegetable oil, applesauce. That's the best substitute for vegetable oil. Just use equal amounts of applesauce, and cuts out a lot of the fat too. So, okay, yogurt. I have made a lot of recipes that call for yogurt, and I never use yogurt because I never have yogurt on hand. So I always just sour my milk and use that. And to sour my milk, I just add about a tablespoon of vinegar. Just white vinegar is all I use. Add that in the bottom of the measuring cup, and then fill the rest with milk. Just whatever kind of milk, whole milk, 1%, 2%, it doesn't matter. I've used them all. And let it sit for 5 minutes and it'll sour. And that will work just as well as yogurt. And this is all when you're cooking. So this is what you want to use in substitutes when you're cooking. So, okay, sour cream. If you're using sour cream in a recipe but you don't have any, you can substitute with yogurt. Just plain yogurt. Buttermilk. I usually keep dry buttermilk on hand. Let me see if I can find my container. I usually always keep this on hand. I do use buttermilk. I use it for my muffins, my bran muffins. That calls for quite a bit of buttermilk, a quart. If you haven't seen that recipe, I'll link it above. But I always keep this on hand, because if I keep buttermilk in the refrigerator, if I buy it in the quart size jug, it usually goes bad before I end up using it. This will stay, you know, for a while. It'll keep on my shelf, so I find that this is easier to use. So I usually always have some of that on hand. So, but if you did not have any buttermilk on hand, you could use 1 cup of plain yogurt, or you could use sour milk. And again, to sour the milk, you just want to add a little bit of white vinegar to the bottom of your measuring cup, whatever amount that you're having to substitute for, and then fill the rest with milk. Okay, so this is a really good one. I have done this. Sweetened condensed milk. I never think to buy sweetened condensed milk, honestly, unless I am specifically going to the grocery store for a specific recipe that calls for the sweetened condensed milk. It's not something I ever have on hand, and honestly, I can tell you that probably the only time that I use it is around holiday time. You know, I'll make magic cookie bars or something like that. But generally I don't have sweetened condensed milk on hand. So if you're like me and you don't ever have that on hand, and you're not near a store, like right now, I know we're doing a lot of cooking, you can use 3/4 cup of sugar, just plain white sugar, 1/2 cup of water, and 1 1/8 cups of dry milk, and you boil that until thick. Okay, just boil that until it's thickened, and there you go. You've got sweetened condensed milk. If you do not have dry milk on hand, you can take 1/3 cup plus 2 tablespoons of evaporated milk. Usually people have that probably quicker than they would the dry milk. 1 cup of sugar and 3 tablespoons of butter, and you're going to heat that until it's thick. So either way, if you don't have sweetened condensed milk, those are great ways to make it yourself at home. Okay, baking powder. I always have baking powder, but there have been a few times where I have gotten really low on it and I've not had enough to do the recipe that I'm cooking. Like right now, a lot of this cooking stuff is really hard to find in the stores, if you can find it at all. And a lot of us aren't shopping right now. It's really hard to do that. Some companies are allowing you to order online still. Some are putting priority to other places. I know it's taking a little bit longer shipping time. So I'm not sure what area of the country that you live in, but for us, we are very remote, so our resources are very few up here. So baking powder, if you run out or run low, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. That will be, use that in place of what you're using for baking powder. Honey, for that you just want to use 1 1/4 cups of sugar and 1/4 cup of water. You just want to mix that up, dilute your water, your sugar in your water, and that will replace it in cooking if you're cooking with this. Like I said, these are all cooking substitutes. Cooking sherry, that's the last one. If you do not have cooking sherry, use apple cider. Apple cider, not apple cider vinegar, apple cider. You can use equal amounts of apple cider. You can use apple cider vinegar, but you want to decrease that by half and then replace the rest with water. So, cooking sherry, replace it equally with apple cider. If you do not have apple cider, you can use apple cider vinegar, but decrease it by half and refill the rest with water. So, those are my replacements, my substitutes that a lot I use, and a lot of these other ones that are just some that I have written down. They're common things that you may run out of, and if you do, well, you have recipes to make your own. Well, I hope everyone is safe and healthy, and let me know what you're cooking. Let me know what you're doing these days. Leave me comments down below. And thank you for joining me here at Mamie's Pantry.